Alright, welcome back to Don't Think, Just Charge. I'm Dave, he's Harvey, and today we're bringing you 5 Skew lists for your games of one-page rules. Let's get into it. So we're talking today about Skew lists. What are Skew lists? They are lists that are inherently skewed from a typical game. So kind of easiest start point to kind of talk about what it is they're not rounded. They're not an all-comers sort of list. They're a list with a strategy in mind, or they are leaning so much that they are skewed towards one outcome, one interaction, one axis of playing the game. One of the things that is a result of that is that they can have very polarising matchups, as we'll kind of go through. Some of them will just blow your opponent off the board, no interaction allowed, no way of having fun. But then there are other times when your own list will just get ruined by your opponents because you're built for one axis of playing the game and your opponent brings exactly the counter and you lose. That's the style of list that we're talking about here. We've put together 5 lists for you. Of course, there are way more than 5. There are different ways of building different armies. These are just some examples. If you guys have any thoughts on your Skew lists, why don't you come and join us in the Discord? Drop it down in the comments below. And whilst you're there, please do subscribe to the channel. It helps us massively. So let's go and have a little bit of a chat. We've put together 5 lists here. We'll just go through them and let you know our thoughts. So we're going to start with the Golden Boys, the Custodian Brothers, a very polarising army already. Baked into their army-wide special rules have -1 AP. By the way, the lists we're talking about here are generally designed for the base game, but they can also have some gameplay in progressive, and we'll talk about that. Progressive and tournament games, we'll talk about that in a minute. This one, though, could play some tournament games, but really is base game. You've got a Master Destroyer. I love this thing. Def 2, -1 AP, regen tough 9, 6 AP 3 attacks. He's going to stick around for a while. 3 units of Custodian Brothers. 1 of them is all bells and whistles. 6 of them, regen aura, teleport aura. We've got 3 spears, 3 swords. Chef's kiss, it's lovely. 2 units of just base brothers. These guys have just got 2 swords and a spear in them for some damage. 2 units of hunter sisters, so you can scout and have a bit of blast for well-rounded armies. And 1 combat walker, importantly with a shred mark, just to give you that extra little bit of AP coming through. Now, Harvey, you're setting up your minis. You look at your opponent's list and he says, Custodian Brothers, tons of Def 2. And what do you do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, so we're kind of softballing you here with the first list, right? Because this is a very standard-looking Custodian list. Custodians themselves are just naturally very skewy. 2 up def, -1 AP over 9 inches or whatever it is obviously very, very hard to deal with, depending on what list your opponent's playing. This plays very well into kind of like horde playstyles, because one thing that the enormous block of 6 Custodian Brothers can do is win combat against things that charge it with no AP over and over again, despite only hitting on 6s. Because they only need a couple of wounds, because it's so hard to wound them to win combat. And even if they don't win combat, they're then a 3-up into a fearless, right? So it's a really, really hard block of things to move. So this list is really designed for just dealing with those kind of playstyles, right? Where your opponent brings a lot of stuff, but doesn't bring a lot of good AP. Or the AP they've got is few and far between. You can see how just moving Custodian Brothers, moving the enormous teleporting stack forwards very early on, you can get 18 inches at the board and just stand in the middle of the board, block off access. That's a really, really effective strategy for dealing with hordes because they struggle with mobility. Your Hunter Sisters are already backing that up. They can start flaming down units, right? That's really, really one-sided, 6 shots of flamers into most units. And then you've got stuff like a Walker which can block, and then Master Destroyer with ambush and stuff like that. So this is one of those lists where if you're playing a rounded list, you'll probably have a relatively okay time, because you can target down the Hunter Sisters, you can try and pick off the weaker Custodian Brothers, and play a relatively normal game of OPR. But you'll probably be pretty heavily dependent on avoiding them killing your sources of AP, because the second they take those out, it's going to be hard to kill the Custodian brothers, who are only 250 points as well, right? Like that's 9 wounds on Def 2, -1 AP, right? That's not actually messing around. So yeah, probably the most softball of the five lists we're going to show you here today in terms of like polarizing matchups, but certainly one.
Certainly a very strong one as well.
Yeah.
As Harvey says, if you are using this list in your games, this is one of the points where I'd encourage you to be thinking about where your weaknesses are, and skew lists as well. They're a style of building your lists that cry out for having that little bit more depth in your game knowledge if you want to keep on winning with them. So with this sort of list, you want to be taking your Custodian Combat Walker and putting that shred mark on the enemy units that have got the high AP, and then giving them the 1-2 punch by guessing that teleporting block of Custodian brothers, zooming 18 inches into the enemy backline and knocking out the high AP, the high volume of deadly 3 shots that are coming out, take them down hard and early, and then you can play the rest of the game a bit more comfortably with this list. The Master Destroyer as well, he's just an extra way of attacking those high AP units. And then if you are against primarily Horde, the Hunter Sisters are a bit of padding for you there. They're a bit more support, just being able to razz on in there and hit, 9 hits if you do well on your 2-ups is really, really strong. And then if they don't have many things that are going to be susceptible to those blast attacks, which also isn't very much in the game, but if they don't have much, say you're bringing all singletons on the other side, Hunter Sisters are very good for being activation burners and just controlling objectives.
Yeah, exactly. When you commit so many points to basically 2 units, you got a 380-point Walker and a 600-point unit of Custodian brothers, half your army in 2 units basically there. You need these units that are strong enough to hold their ground against certain matchups, but can also very happily just sit on a point on the other end of the map and not really contribute because they're only 100 points.
Absolutely. So, as Harvey says, a very soft start. Let's pick something that's going to be a bit more mainline polarizing here. I think DAO's a good place to go to now. Before we get into a bit more of a not quite rock paper scissors trifecta with the last 3, more like dynamite paper scissors really, but certainly ones that can play into each other. But let's have a look at the DAO right now. Now this is again going to be a very skew list because of a couple of things. We'll come into why this list can absolutely ruin a heavy melee list, but also the table you're playing on. OPR is a terrain-intensive setup game. It recommends 15 plus pieces of terrain on a 6x4 board. Now, if you're playing with small things like scatter and so on, it can look quite bare. But if you're playing with chunky, what am I trying to say, like 6-inch by 6-inch blocks of terrain, and you've got maybe 8, 9, 10 of those on a board and then bits of scatter as well, suddenly the board can become quite gummed up and lines of fire are very hard to come by. But if you're not using that much terrain, or if you are using the scatter, DAO can just have a bit of a field day. They can find tons of lanes of fire to shoot down, and if you place your objectives well, you can just deny your opponent the ability just through threat of shooting. Now, this list as well is also very good for you tournament players out there. I brought it to the event we played on Sunday. I won 3 of my 4 games. I had a lovely old time. I spent a lot of my time pausing and thinking about activation priority, but it was very, very strong. Now, what is the list? We've got 2 units of 10 security grunts. They've got their shotguns, A2, AP1. They're shielded. That defense 3-up is so important. And then they've got this thing here, melee, shrouding, aura, -3-inch when charging this rule. That is a theme you're going to see in this list because it's on the security grunts, it's on the spotter grunts, it's on the 2 transports as well. So we've got 2 units of those security grunts. We've got a big fat unit of spotters, 18-inch A2 AP1. They've got a range slayer or a hero, so +2 AP against anything with tough. They've got 2 precision spotters, really good to have to get your attack rolls on a 2-up, piercing shooting mark for an extra point of AP, and that melee shrouding aura, very, very important. Then we've got a unit of battle suits with battle suits elite. Here we've gone for the decimate unstoppable guns, but again we've got 2 precision spotters in the squad and range slayer aura. If you see an aircraft, you bring it down damn fast. Then we've got 2 hover transports to bring in the units of security grunts. Again, they've got melee shrouding. Because of points, one of them has stealth, the other doesn't, and one's got piercing shooting mark. And then for activation burners and scout winning, we have 2 grunt leaders. Now, this is actually a Harvey list with an extra spin of the battle suits coming in, which we workshopped together. Performed very, very well. I don't think it's like the ultimate S tier list. I hate using S tier, but I don't think it's a 10%er list to use our own scales, really. But it is really strong and can be very, very polarizing.
Yeah, this thing absolutely shits on every melee list, really, because melee shrouding aura is really, really powerful. The thing that this does really well is, so obviously to get targeted visors, you need to be over 9 inches. And the melee shrouding aura means that they get -3 to their charges, which means anything moving at normal pace, they need to be like 9.1 inches away for you to get everything you ever wanted from them. And it gives you a 3-inch buffer with your like 12-inch shotguns. So you've actually got loads and loads of like give there where you can shoot them and they can't charge you back. And because you have transports, it's really easy to set that up, right? You can put them exactly where you need to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if we spoke about this in the channel before, but transports are often used for melee units, but are actually much more powerful when used with ranged units, because transports can move. For example, these ones here are fast. They can move their 8 inches. They can shoot their 18-inch guns. They can then unload shotguns, which move 6 inches forwards. And then now the shotguns are within range of the deployment line, and they can shoot the deployment line. And you've still managed to shoot everything in that time. And the shotguns then can't be charged back or whatever. Obviously, spotter squads, I mean, we've talked about this at length, right? They're just really, really potent. That's basically AP4 against the stuff that needs AP4 against it. And stuff that's not stuff that they don't need AP against, they get AP2, which is great. Slayer is one of those things that's just like, it's kind of how we wish all the weapon rules worked, right? It was just 3 up instead of being 3 to 9.
Yeah, anything that, all those, if it's got tough 3 to 6 or 3 to 9 rules, I look at and I'm in so much pain about, because I want to have it on tough 3, but I also want to have that against tough 12.
Yeah, which is the most common, right?
It is, yeah. Those are the 2 really, really important ones. And yeah, sadly, it doesn't exist for all of them, but it does exist for the Slayer rule, and it's so good.
Yeah. And so then, round 1, you're basically getting a bunch of one-way fighting against the melee list. You're going to take a large amount of the melee list off the board. If you positioned well, they then can't charge you back. Obviously, if things have got fast, then it starts to get a little bit spicier with the security grunts. But you have so many activations where you can start to burn activations through those grunt leaders and force them to come forwards. Between the spotter squad and the battle suits, you're still doing stuff before they're getting close. And the hover transports even have got 18-inch range. So you can basically do everything but the shotguns, and then do the shotguns last. And knowing that you're playing against a melee list, you're going to be targeting the fast stuff anyway. Then stuff like grunt leaders. So naked heroes are really, really good. But they're especially good against like an all melee list, right? An all melee list is going to struggle to kill them because they can't split fire. They need spellcasting drill to target these things, and you can line of sight it really easily. So it's actually a really annoying thing to deal with, because at some point they're going to have to charge it with a big unit to try and kill it. And don't underestimate the Def 4 on this, right? They can't just throw a swarm at it, because it can actually just live, right? Like, swarms can't necessarily beat this in combat. It's kind of wild. Yeah. This is, and as the game goes on, you can then start using your hover transports just to block charges, right? Like, hover transports, the models are pretty big. You can just park them sideways in front of stuff because you're playing against melee. If they charge the hover transport, so be it, right? It's served its purpose at this point. You can very quickly snowball games against a melee list with this style of list, because they can't really do much on the board against it, right? Like, it can try and get as close as possible, but realistically, you're going to put your fire where it matters. If they're playing transport heavy, right, you've got both your battle suits elites, and your spotter squad. All those things deal with transports pretty handily. If you get the first turn, you kill one of their transports with your spotters. They then move the second transport up, you kill that with your battle suits. Everything inside is shaken, right? And then they're probably not winning that game. So yeah, just once again, so this is, where Custodian rules is a bit more of a softball. This is extremely polarizing, right? Like, you will struggle to lose against a strong melee list with a list like this.
Yeah. And Harvey, I think, has actually touched on, like, I don't think Harvey's touched on everything that this army can do against a full melee list as well. The grunt leaders just are phenomenal at tagging points and running away, being distraction, objective cappers. You've got split fire out of the Battlesuit Elites. You have a little bit of split fire out of the hover transports, but also then across a big board, the ability to get back into transports is something I've never really valued until playing lists like this and a Blessed Sisters list I played quite recently in an event. Just so incredibly good at nipping in and then getting out of there before you consider all of those things. And also, one of the things that all shooting lists can do really, really well is move on to a point to cap it if it's uncontested. And then you move off of that point. And because you need objectives to be sticky in OPR, and so they are, your opponent with melee has a choice to make. Do I play the objective or do I charge the unit? Yeah. And that's quite a difficult decision that gets even harder as the game goes on. So there's a lot of gameplay in here that, honestly, this list is exhausting to play. I'm just going to be quite frank. I had a really good day on Sunday, and would I play it again? Probably, but at the same time, it's not my style. I like having melee units in my army. I like having a bit more of a range of options. Like having split fire out of the battle suits were phenomenal. It was so useful, but the amount of thinking I had to do it with everybody was really draining. So I think it's a very powerful list if you enjoy playing shooting lists. Go forth and enjoy. But this is back to that playstyle thing we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. This one, I've done it. Not my favorite.
Yeah. Two other things to note as well, just in terms of the melee matchup. One thing, grunt leaders obviously can be used to just fatigue things. If they charge it and hit someone with a blast, then they kind of need to attack back, which is really annoying. And if they don't hit, then your opponent can just ignore them, but that's, no harm, no foul. And the other thing as well is hover transports are fast, so they move 8 inches. Now in OPR, you have to be an inch away from everyone, which means that you can always be 9 inches away effectively, right? As long as there's, a micro inch away from each other, you're not exactly a 1 inch away from each other, then you can always move 8 inches and get out of charge range with these things. So they can always walk away and shoot the things that's just threatening them, which is very, very, very potent. And because they're fast and strider, they can also just, once they've moved away and shot you, if you then leave, they then double move back onto the point, which is also very frustrating to deal with. So, yeah.
Oh, and on top of that, to keep talking about melee shrouding aura, your enemies who ambush in with a non-fast unit or something that moves at normal speed or slower can't charge because you have to deploy over 9 inches away with ambush, and this brings your charge down to being 9 inches, so it can be a pain in the ass.
For sure.
So yeah, the DAO list, very frustrating. Good fun though. I did enjoy it for all of my gripes about it not being my style.
Yeah, I mean, it's lots of firepower, but it is actually quite difficult to play, right? Because all shooting is more difficult than all melee because you don't get free routes every so often. So you really need to have an understanding of how much damage you're doing and whether or not you're snagging activation off them or what, which is definitely more stressful on the brain.
Absolutely. Let's take something. Let's go to the Hives, shall we, for our next list? This is something that I would like to play.
Oh, yeah.
And as well, I think that, it might be a little bit less brain intense. Not to say this is absolute zug, because I think that this list as well could be quite tricky to play in the right ways. But this is way more my play style, way more charging with this thing, and way less thinking. Hey, what do you know? Not way less. The Alien Hives list. This is an example of a Horde list in Grimdark Future. You will note as well, this is all Grimdark Future. We've not brought any Age of Fantasy lists in here. If there is particular appetite for it, we'll probably discuss it in the Discord. We'll stick to Grimdark Future for now. But this is a whomping great Horde army in Grimdark Future. Before I go through the list, one of the major attractions to a Horde list is just weight of wounds. As I'll count up at the end how many wounds we get out of this list. It's a lot, and some armies just can't kill that much. Yeah. So what have we got? We have 3 units of the same thing here, which are 20 Assault Grunts, led by a Snatcher Lord. The 20 Assault Grunts, we've got 4 of their Serrated Claws upgrades, giving them a total of 8 attacks with AP4 per unit. And then the Snatcher Lord has got the Furious Aura to just give them that bit more offensive output. We have 3 of these. 3 of these is 23 wounds per block. 69 wounds for 3 units is huge. Just by a bit more of a comparison, the Custodian Brothers one that we had here is what? Ooh, quick maths. 12 18, 24, 30. What's this? 30, 39,
18 more, yeah.
48, 57?
I buy it, yeah. I wasn't doing the maths along with you, but it sounds about right, yeah.
Let's take that as 57 wounds. This is 69 wounds, so more wounds just in 3 units, which is monstrous. The Furious Aura means that sometimes you're just going to ruin people with tons of AP4 and just tons of AP0 stuff coming through. They've got Strider, they've got Fast, and then Hive Bond plus the Snatcher Lord. Hive Bond is +1 to morale rolls. If you have a hero in a unit, you use that hero's quality for your morale checks. So actually, they're really hard to move because they're a 2-up morale, which is 5/6 of your dice rolls. So it's really incredibly hard to actually get through these units. Rounding out the rest of the army, very straightforward. We have 2 units of 20 shooter grunts with their bio borers, 12-inch AP nothing. These ones have been upgraded with agile, so they move 7 inches and then throw, up to 40 dice at your opponent. That's a lot. And then we have 3 units of 6 hive swarms. Everyone in the army has Strider, so this is really, really finicky to get play against because there's very little holding them back. And then just from these additional 2 units on top of the 69, what have we got? 20, 40, plus an extra 3x18. 3x18 is 54. So quick maths here. 54, 90. What? Is that right? I'm saying numbers and it sounds like absolutely extraordinary. 18,
you're right, yeah.
36, 54.
Wounds there, yeah. 94 and 69. Yeah, so 103, 163.
163 wounds.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a
Holy
lot.
Shit.
So, yeah, and the key thing here as well is the 3 big blocks of units, as you said, are getting the 2-up morale, right? So you actually have to chew through those wounds. This list actually is stolen. So our friend John has been playing Alien Hives recently, and our other friend Aaron stepped in after John played it in one event and said, like, hey, why don't you just put Snatcher Lords in the Assault Grunts? And I played against it and I was like, damn, that is fucking annoying. That's so annoying to morale. You really have to have firepower to kill these things. So yeah, this is just a great list. It's a lot of wounds. You're really taking advantage of Hive Bond, right? The +1 morale is really good with lots of wounds because the only way you really counter lots of wounds is with morale checks because normally lots of wounds means low quality and so on. But everything in the unit is on a 50-50 at worst, right? So those Hive Swarms are really annoying to deal with. They're just like almighty stacks of stuff that you just double them up the board, put them on points, say, come at me, I don't really care. While your assault guns charge from them out, being able to basically deal with every unit in the game thanks to having AP4 embedded so heavily in them. And the Snatcher Lord being AP1 rending is also relevant. It's a relatively simple list, but I think it's got a lot of teeth. And yeah, some lists will just simply not have the firepower to deal with this, right? Like dealing with 69 wounds is some things that some lists just can't really do, right? Especially if you play well and don't give your units so easily and pick clever engagements and stuff and shield with the Hive Swarms, right? Like they can cover a lot of ground, right? 9 inches wide with Hive Swarms, and it doesn't really matter if they get charged or it doesn't really matter if anything happens to them, right? Because they're only 140 points for all those wounds. So
it's absolutely mental, isn't it?
Yeah, a true like horde list. There are other ways of building this that make it slightly more maybe competitive. For example, like getting casters in here or things that give them unpredictable fighter buffs, right? That's obviously very potent with A2 and quality 5, right? Either buff you get is very good. So there are ways of making this list slightly less hoardy and slightly more rounded and maybe, all comers style. But this is the Skew video, and so we don't do that around here. Yeah, and it can't be understated how annoying blocks of Snatcher Lords, Assault Grunts with Fast and Strider are. That's enormous coverage on the map. It's really, really hard to be out of range of these guys. And because they're fast, they can pick their charges relatively easy. So yes, you can shoot them first. But I mean, it's a lot to get through, right? It really is. And if they play it well, then they'll stall you out and they'll block you with Hive Swarms. And yeah, if you're playing by, normal line of sight rules as well, Hive Swarms are actually quite tall by those line of sight rules because they're tough 3. So they are actual line of sight blockers to the units behind them. So you can simply put your 3 units of Hive Swarms in front of your 3 units of Snatcher Assault Grunts and just use them to block line of sight completely from the front. Now, if they've got a tank that can see over it, then sure, right? But yeah, by most line of sight rules, you can at least block tough one with the Hive Swarms.
Yeah, really a terrifying list. And we spoke about playstyles recently. I think this is one playstyle where you can focus on the core aspect of the game. You're not doing anything particularly tricky with it, but you're doing big movement and fundamentals, I think is quite a strong way of describing it. If you are well equipped to play the fundamentals of the game, you will do well with this sort of list. Notwithstanding the fact that you will just overwhelm some people at the same time, but you have the tools for the job of playing an objective game in those assault grunts, as Harvey's mentioned.
Yeah,
so,
it's very reminiscent
really
of old school, like Ghost and Dead style, right? Because even if you kill, even if you do 22 wounds to those assault grunts, the Snatcher Lord on the inside still has a 2 morale. And he can pass that, and he can then turn around with Fast and Strider and just disappear into the mists. And that's really, really fucking annoying to deal with. So yeah, very, very potent playstyle, especially if you play a little bit cagey like that and you recognize, it depends what game mode you're playing, but if you're playing base game, then sometimes just running away with these things is enough, right? Just go in, do all your damage, weaken both forces, but then you come out with a Snatcher Lord or 2's kicking around and your Hive Swarm's still kicking around, and you can do a lot of contesting. Yeah, it works very well.
Works very well. So you're now scared of the carpet of bugs coming towards you. Not forgetting as well, this is like over 100 models as well. Like you need a big box to carry it. So how do you deal with the guy who brings the big box of 100 bugs? You burn it. You burn the big box of 100 bugs, and that's what this army of Night Brothers does very well. Harvey, this is your baby. You brought this list, or an older edition of this list, as an absolute meme, and then stomped with it. You did very well.
Yeah, so me and Dave like to go to, there's lots of narrative events in the UK. If you're in the UK, come join us over in Worcester or Bristol and stuff.
Great
fun. And so for those narrative style events, we like to bring kind of like meme lists effectively, right? And Night Brothers was, I actually looked on Nexus Wargaming's tier list at the time, and he put Night Brothers at the very bottom of it. And that was how I decided to bring this. I was like,
and I took it personally.
I saw it and I was like, perfect, right? Like if his belief is that this is really bad, then I'm going to use it. So I built Night Brothers. And at the time, basically Night Brothers had nothing apart from flamers going for them. Right? I looked at their list and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is all they're supposed to do, because their destroyers have to take storm rifles, which suck. They've got really bad split profile. Their walkers are kind of just like, they're just generic walkers, they're not really worth bringing. And to get 7 activations, you really just have to double down on their troops. So I ran a list very, very similar to this. This is slightly different to the way it worked back then. It's lost a bit of caster and more perk brothers and stuff like that, but it's based, and I think I had 3 stacks of Night Veteran brothers before. So yeah, it's changed a little bit, but this is a very, very powerful list against those kind of like horde style lists, but actually also quite good against rounded lists, right? Having 1 tough 12 on the board is fine. You can absolutely ignore that thing. You can pretend like it doesn't exist and everyone's happy. And most things apart from that tend to be tough 3 or less. And not many things in the game can deal with Night Veteran brothers teleporting 12 inches, shooting you from 16 inches away because of the versatile reach, hitting you with 6 flamers that have AP2 because of their veteran buff. So you're hitting basically 15 AP2 hits from range. There aren't many things in the game that just shrug that off, right? Most infantry blocks die. Like the big hordes that we just saw then, like the 20 blocks, obviously they're not dying against this. So like that's a pretty decent counter against this type of list, as long as the Night Brother then doesn't apply more fire and actually not wipe out the units, which they can do. And then on top of that, you've got the Night Perk Brothers, which is like that. This is the new Relentless basically is doing a lot here, right? So previously these guys wouldn't move and it was really annoying, and now they shoot from 18 inches away with AP2 and they have Relentless and they're just blapping fools with more AP2 shots. This is like an overwhelming amount of AP2, and then the Night Brothers are teleporting like the other ones, but they're just only AP1. But honestly, like 10 shots AP1 and a 3-up. It's really good. A lot of the time you'll get 8 hits AP1 against most units is doing a decent chunk. and they're doing it from 24 inches away. So they can be really, really safe. And like, don't underestimate 12-inch movement on shooting. It gives you so much more flexibility across a game.
Yeah.
You can be everywhere.
It's worth we've put the cart before the horse here. Hello to our Spotify listeners who aren't looking at the screen. Let's just run through the list after doing the analysis.
They might do. Spotify listeners have views now, have videos as well.
Whew, you fancy it, Spotify.
That's the modern age.
This is the modern age.
Run through the list.
Just in case, Harvey's already done it, so I'll tell you what they've got. So Harvey mentioned the 2 units of Knight Veteran Brothers. So these are... Everything here, by the way, is tough ones. We've just spoken about 160 wounds. Now we're going to be talking about, let's see, 10,
31.
28, 31, 34 wounds.
31, is it? I just
6,
12
12
22. 22 at 9, 31, yeah.
Yeah, I've added 6 on. So we're talking about far fewer wounds. Literally over 100 fewer wounds here. 2 units of Knight Veteran Brothers.
It's wild.
2 units of Knight Veteran Brothers. They're 3/3s. They've got versatile attack and versatile reach aura on them. Versatile attack, you choose to have +1 to hit or +1 AP. Versatile reach aura, you either have +4 inch range when shooting or 2 inch range extra when charging. They've all got incinerators, which are 12-inch, A1, AP1, Blast 3 reliable. So you make those AP2 with your versatile attack because you're already hitting on 2s, or you hedge off against stealth. And then they've all got teleports, which lets them move 6 inches for free on every move. And so that teleport is what Harvey's talking about when he says you move 12 inches, because you move 12 and then you move 6 with your normal move to shoot. And it's huge. The next teleporting unit is 2 units of Knights Battle Brothers. These come in blocks of 5. The last ones are blocks of 3 doubled up to 6. These are blocks of 5. Each one has got an assault storm rifle, which is a 24-inch range A2 AP1 gun. And these guys have got teleport too. So that's 10 shots coming out of them on a core 3. And then finally, the Knight Purgation Brothers. These are units of 3 with Relentless, and they've been upgraded in this army list to have psychic cannons, which are 18-inch A1, AP2, Blast 3. No reliable on those. Don't make the Dave mistake of seeing flamers and thinking they have reliable. These ones do not. No. But what do you get? So when you take, for example, the Knight Veteran Brothers and you attack with them, if you hit all of your 2-up attacks, 18? Is that 18 hits with AP2 that can come out? It's absolutely monstrous. It doesn't fully wipe out one of those Snatcher units, not Snatcher units, Assault Grunt units, as Harvey said, but it does a damn good number on them.
Yeah, it really, like, so when I played against it in the tournament, basically every rounded list I came against, there were a couple of, I think I played against, so one list had a tough 18 in it, one list had a tough 12 in it, and one list was just an Orc Horde. And
it was the Orc Horde player who you've caused PTSD to, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've fallen out. But yeah, because the Nightborn rule as well means you resist spells. So yeah, I basically murdered every single unit in his army without him. I think he killed 1 unit of mine. That was it. It was a bloodbath. So yeah, if you have like a local meta where people are just like spamming orcs everywhere and doing that really wide play style, you could just bring this, right? The nice thing about this list is it's really easy to build, right? Like you probably have 31 Space Marines, right? Somewhere, right?
You don't even need Space Marines, right?
Most houses in the UK have 31 Space Marines hidden somewhere in it. So yeah, and it can be, like you say, it can be literally anything, right? But 31 dudes is very easy to assemble from most lists. And then you can go and play this like silly Skew list for an event and see how you do. And if you come across a Titan Lords player, then you start hitting him with 5 hits of AP2 and you pray, because that's all you can do. But even to be fair, like, credit to the list, right? Whilst that is not a very good strategy, it's actually not bad. Yeah. Compared to a lot of things, right? Like having AP2 and hitting 5 hits is actually not bad, especially if you start like piling in to kill stuff. Like with this list, I was killing APCs. So that's something, I guess. And also, most people just aren't prepared for a unit of Veteran Brothers to teleport 12 inches and shoot 16. Right? Like it's not what you expect when you see flamethrowers. So you don't expect to be hit from 26 inches away, or whatever that is.
And if you need to play the snaky little runaway game, you have got 4 units that can move 18 inches in a go, which you can run away pretty damn effectively.
Yeah, and obviously as well, if you want to play that playstyle, you can also instead build a night list that's got regen aura, +1 morale aura, and then rapid rush. So you can rapid rush around the map, which is bad, but it does mean you can move 24 inches in a turn of movement. So you could play like a decap playstyle where you just have like one hero with rapid rush with teleport, and he just hides behind a building the whole game, and then last round it's just like let's fucking go. He just comes out holding the banner, 24 inches, lad. Can't do anything because he's Russian, but believe in him. Yeah, if anyone plays a list like that, I'd love to hear how it goes. Immediately, I'm getting excited about it, and I think it'd be funny just to bring a two of naked heroes with rapid rush and teleport. Yeah, now we're talking.
Anyone else feeling violated by Harvey's tone of voice there? We have a support group. We meet on Wednesdays. Harvey,
subscribe to the channel.
Come and find us.
Join the Discord. We have a chat all surrounding Harvey support group.
I think that's going to be a new channel soon. This is a very fun list to use. I used something quite similar when I was doing testing for UKGE last year. Just as a test list to do at 1,500 points, which was like 5 activations. Some armies that just blew them off the board and played the objective game very, very well. 18 inches is so big.
Teleport's really good, and most things are susceptible to flamers, right? Like I think less so in the current meta of OPR, but I imagine in the next patch when all the weapons are getting nerfed and tough is getting its cost reduction removed, is where we're currently at. I think flamers are still staying at Blast 3 AP1, so don't worry, Flamer brothers. There will be a time. Also, Knight's getting massive changes as well, so they're actually more flexible now and all sorts of stuff. So, Knight brothers unite soon. Just wait until
Knight brothers.
Knight brothers. Yes, Knight brothers. Yes.
Knight Battle Brothers. You're the Battle of Battle Brothers.
What are you doing?
No.
We're waiting for our time.
I was trying something with words, and you just ruined it. Thank you. Okay, speaking of ruining things, things that get ruined by Harvey.
Yay.
This is the most degenerate list. This is my, I'm so happy you found it. I'm very proud of you, Harvey. I'm very pleased that a member of Don't Think Just Charge, you, came across this list. I feel violated every time I think about this list at the moment. It is insanely good. Credit as well to Swamp Hobbit. Is it Swamp Hobbit in our Discord?
Swamp Hobbit's been chatting about it, yeah.
Yeah, Swamp Hobbit, who wrote an essay on the power of Dark Elf Raiders.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This list is filth. Harvey, tell us why.
Yeah, so you've actually got a slightly different list to what I had here, but yeah, the principles are the same. So, this is an activation stall list. This absolutely preys on people who follow our list building advice. If you've listened to Don't Think Just Charge told you to bring 7 activations, and now every time you see 8 activations, you think I'll just go for a couple more upgrades instead. This list will eat you alive. You stand 0 chance.
This list eats alive anyone who plays within the bounds of 10 activations or fewer at 2K Grimdark Future. Yeah.
I think the cutoff point for where this list is definitely destroying you is I think less than 8 activations, 8 or less is where it's going to start destroying you. How does this list work? It doubles down on a couple of different principles that we've often talked about on the channel. So naked heroes, very good, very point efficient, can capture objectives, are annoying, can hide behind line of sight, get a surprising amount of value when they shoot and stuff. It has scout units. So scout is very good. It forces your opponent to deploy in a weird way. If they want to respect it, you can go for early trades. If you get initiative, then you can just charge around to that point, and if you don't get initiative, then you can hold ground and you get to make that decision after they've deployed. It's very strong. And then the last thing it doubles down on, a principle we often talk about, is just the glass cannon thing, right? It's really good to be glass cannon in OPR, because if you wipe out a unit, your opponent has to spend an activation to wipe out your unit in response. And that means they spend a whole activation doing that, which means you then get an activation on them, and you're ahead, right? You're snowballing ahead of them. So how does this list actually work? Well, this list takes advantage of martial prowess, right? Which is the... Yeah, go on. Do you want to talk to the list? Or
so, let's run through the list, right? Let's describe the list as well.
Let me say what martial prowess is. So martial prowess is
talk about martial prowess.
Army-wide, which is once per game, you can reactivate. You no longer count as fatigued, but you basically get a second activation, right? Which you can do with up to half, rounded up, of your units in your army per turn, and you can do it once per game for each unit, right? So what that effectively means is if you have 5 units, those 5 units can all activate once more, but only 3 of them can do it within 1 turn. So go ahead, you talk the list now, and then I'll get back to the thing.
Yeah. Also, worth noting that when we reviewed the Human Inquisition in our tier list recently, we discussed about how that is, or I certainly said how that was one of the most powerful army-wide rules, if not the most in the game. Yeah. And then putting it here is what juices this so much. So what is this list? We have 3 heroes. 2 of them are elite raiders. One of them's an elite true raider. That is because of just points available. They have all been upgraded with martial prowess. So that is 3 naked units with martial prowess that are very, very cheap. What they're equipped with doesn't really matter, but it is worth noting that the Elite True Raider has got 3 attacks, AP4 on a 6-inch gun, which is very good. Then we have got... Let's go for the scouts first. We have 2 units of Bloodhounds. These are cracking. Such a solid scout unit. Lovely to see. They are 4/5s. They come in blocks of 5. You double them up to 10. They've got 2 attacks with Bane, Fast, and Scout, and of course the Dark Elf Raiders rule Harassing, that 3-inch move. And then 200 points gets you 10 of them, so you have 2 units of those. This is a version of the list. Harvey is a slightly different version. This is just a bit of a skeleton to go with. Then for a 3rd scout unit, you've got Crow Swarms. They're 5/6s, 3 models with tough 3. They've got flying, they've got scout, and then they've got 3 attacks with render each. Those are your objective players. Those are your frilly around the points things. Worth noting that whilst that is 6 activations, 3 of them get a double go, so potentially we're up to 9 activations in a turn already. But that's not where you do your doubles. Court effing Henchmen. Jesus, the terror these guys bring. You get them in blocks of 3, so these are all doubled up to 6. They are 3/4s, and then they've got melee weapons A1 lacerate, which you don't really use very much. What you do is you upgrade them to all have Medusa's Gaze, which is a A4 AP3 gun at 12 inches range. So you have a relatively short range unit that on a single attack throws 24 dice at AP3, hitting you on qual 3 up. That's quite rare in the game as it is. So they're very fragile. So what do? How do we get them closer? Heavy jet bikes. Excellent transport unit here, really leveraging the power of transport. 4/2s. The quality here is less relevant because what are you doing? You're jamming them in. They're tough 6. You can upgrade them for transport 6. They're already fast and strider, and then you give them speed boost. These fucking bikes can go 20 inches a turn, and then if you impact someone for some reason, you can bounce 3 as well, provided you're not shaken. Harvey, tell us the game plan. Because the game plan of this is so terrifying to play against. This, by the way, this Custodians list, don't bring it against this Dark Elves list. I've tried. It is not a happy ending for the Custodians.
Okay, so the plan starts in deployment, right? So in deployment, you're gonna look at the board and you're gonna go like, what are 2 line of sight blockers I can hide my jet bikes behind, right? Because all I want is a safe little warm nest for my jet bikers to sit in, right? They don't want to see anyone, they don't want to answer any calls, right? They want to order in a pizza, they want to get their pajamas on, they want to chill, okay? So you find them a nice little cozy place like that and you put them down and you put the core henchmen inside them. Before you do that, you obviously want to deploy every one of your other units, right? So sometimes you're going to be deploying things in Scout if you feel the need for it. If you'd rather like delay deployment to be more sure about where you're deploying the jet bikes, then you can not deploy the Bloodhounds. Just make a judgment call based on what your opponent's list looks like. If they have lots and lots of things to put down, maybe you hold them back. Maybe you don't need the Scout. Maybe there's nothing good to hit with the Bloodhounds early. Maybe there's no real benefit to being on the board early, whatever it is. Then you go into round 1. You pray that you lose the roll off, so let your opponent go first, just because it's an extra activation stall. If you don't, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, right? The list is built robustly enough, so it'll still function. Your first 3 moves of most games are going to be moving your heroes. If you've set up a Bloodhound charge, then you do that, right? Sure. But the Bloodhound's fast, so they're quite good at just like holding ground and just being like sitting there and waiting and making your opponent not want to move forwards. So you move your raiders, right? So if they can move onto a point and be relatively safe, go ahead and do it. If they can't, you just go like activate him and you don't even touch the mini. You let your opponent go. Your opponent activates one of the things, comes back to you, I'll do another raider, right? 3 raiders. So already 3 of their activations are gone and they've moved to the board And the only things they could have really threatened are probably the hounds, but you've scouted them, so hopefully they're safe, or the raiders you've moved at the board, but they're small models, so hopefully you've found places to put them, though they're not actually in jeopardy. Then the game continues, and then, okay, they're down 3 activations, and you've got your Bloodhounds, you've got your Crow Swarm. So then you move your Crow Swarm wherever you want, right? Like, who cares? They're using their activation. We're now 4 down. You've got your 2 Bloodhound units. If they're starting to feel like they need to do some action, then go ahead and do it. If not, at this point, you just martial prowess one of your raiders, and you do something with it, right? An important thing to know about martial prowess, right? If you're playing against a melee list, you can move 12 inches, and then you can martial prowess and move 6 inches into difficult terrain, giving these guys like a pseudo strider, where they can capture objectives in difficult terrain, and your opponent can't really do much about it because you're in difficult terrain. So at this point, we've activated 3 raiders, we've reactivated 1 raider, we've activated our Crow Swarms, so we're at 5 activations, so they've used 5 at least. If you lost the roll off, they're actually on their 6th activation now. And now you're starting to see it, right? Like, most lists at this point are running out of gas, right? They've got 2 more activations to go. You still have 2 Bloodhounds to go, so you use your Bloodhounds then. Your Bloodhounds don't need to do anything, they just need to be activations. One thing that was pointed out in the Discord recently, Swamp Hobbit, when he posted this thing, is if you charge your Bloodhounds into one of their units with Scout and you wipe out the unit, you also deny them an activation, and you've used your activation for it, right? So that's a really, really effective strategy for getting extra activation stalls. If you've identified a target the Bloodhounds can definitely kill. If you charge in and they die, then it's not the end of the world. They will have weakened something. But it could be really important. So you do your 2 Bloodhounds, right? At that point, what are we on? We've done 3 plus 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We've done 7 activations. Your opponent's either used 7 or 8 of their activations at this point. They're probably tapped. If they're not, then they've got very little counterplay, and you can probably play around it. So at this point, you then take your heavy jet bikes, you measure 20 inches, and you basically just like push them forwards. You try and put them somewhere reasonable so they can't be shot if there's still things on the board. But at this point, they've done their job, right? All they need to do now is, if your opponent still has activations, they just need to live 1 attack, most likely. So the attack comes out, if it happens at all, and if it doesn't, and you've just got your activations left, then you're totally comfortable. You disembark your Court Henchman 6 inches, you pick any target you want, you shoot it with 24 shots, you hit 16 on average, 16 AP3, basically minces every target in the game. Some Tough 12 stuff will still live, and then you reactivate and you do it again. And you kill another one of their units, and then you go to your other Court Henchman and you do that with them. So what you've done in 1 turn is you've basically stalled out other activations. They haven't got any value. And then you've come in and you've probably wiped out 4 of their units, right?
Yeah.
And if your opponent is playing 7 activations, 4 of 7 is most of their list.
So let's take like a rounded Wolf Brothers list, because I love Wolf Brothers and I would like to play them at some point.
Yeah.
Not while this list is in existence, as it coming to a comp event. I bring 2 walkers in that list, and the rest are infantry. Say you've got some tough 3 things with Def 2. Let's take that as the example. The world where in Cloud Cuckoo Land you have 5 units of Def 2, 3 units of 3 with tough 3, and 2 walkers.
Yeah.
The Dark Elf Raider list out-activates you, so that you have to move up or do all of your units without really too much to say. Without too much interaction.
Yeah.
Then the Dark Elf Raider unit sends out 1 little Scud missile moving 20 inches with Strider, and then maybe you attack back and blow it up and shake the unit inside. So you're all out, and you've disembarked one of these units of Court Henchmen. The other bike comes up, picks a unit, and rolls 24 attacks on Qual 3. Say it is, as you say, 16 hits with Qual 3. That's 1 unit gone. That unit reactivates with Martial Prowess and wipes out another one, and there has been nothing you can do to stop yourself from losing 2 whole activations here. Let alone the fact that they could be very expensive. If they are Wolf Riders, as I'm thinking of here, those are like 265 points-ish for 3 Def 2 units. 16 hits on that unit, where you have 9 wounds to kill. You're rolling 16 5-ups, so you are saving a third of those, so maybe you're saving generously. We could say you're saving 5 or 6. You're still losing the entire unit. And you can do that 4 times. If you don't blow up one of those bikes, that is 4 of those coming out. 4 blasts of at least 10 wounds on average coming through. if you do blow up one of the bikes, you shake one of the court henchmen, do you know what it does? Activates and unshakes, and then martial prowesses and has its go anyway. So even if you blow up one of these bikes, you're getting 3 activation wipes out, and then really you're just playing pure up on the game. Now, if it is end of game scoring, maybe the rest of your units can play the rest of the game, but you are playing about a third to half of your army down after round 1 with nothing to do about it.
Yeah, a huge thing to know about this list is it's extremely fragile, right?
Extremely.
So
you make a mistake, you're gone.
Round 1, you're going to go in, and your opponent's going to be like, what the fuck is this bullshit? But if you're playing base game, then all of a sudden, with their scraps that they have left, they're going to start coming back into the game, and you're going to feel hopeless, right? Because you're like, I've got Bloodhounds with no AP, I've got jet bikes with Lacerate, I've got 3 heroes who aren't really doing much. Because I did 12 activations, or 11 activations, no, more than that, 13 activations in the first round, they're definitely going first, right? So one of your court henchman units is dead, right? There's no way they're not killing it, right? So the second they kill one of your court henchman units, you're down 600 points. Your second court henchman unit gets to do one more thing, and then it dies. And then all of a sudden the game slowly goes back towards your opponent. So you really, really need to do well in that first round for this list to work. And this is why it's such a heavy skew list, right? Because some lists just fold under that amount of pressure, right? Like you can take 2 jet bikes, you can deploy them somewhere in the middle, you can waste your opponent's activations, you can look at the board. It's a bit like ambush. You look at the board and go like, where can I go? And sometimes you just go left with both your jet bikes and you just take the whole flank. And there's nothing they can do about it, right? And in base game, that's not a complete crisis because it happened on round 1. They have 3 rounds to get back onto the game. In progressive, it's beyond fucked, right? Because they come in, they take a flank. You've lost the game basically, right? Because there's no way you can get back onto the points fast enough. And bear in mind that, yes, they take a 1 flank and you're like, well, I have the other flank then. Well, you don't really, because they have decapping heroes, they have hounds and crow swarms that are annoying and they can decap points, and all they need to do is be there for a turn, and if you activate into them, you've wasted it. So yeah, this and also the jet bikes, once again, they still move 20 inches with Strider and they're still def 2. And so once they've dropped off their load, they can just go wherever they want on the map and decap points and do stuff, and things can get back in them if they want to, and you can like do your round 1 thing and then round 2 like reassemble, and then round 3 go to the other side of the board and do it again, not with the double activations but still with 2 heavy activations. So this list will absolutely destroy some lists. And then sometimes you come across a list that's got like an orc bomber in it. It flies over the head of one of these jet bikes and the jet bike just immediately dies. And you're like, well, now my 500 point core henchman unit is sat out in the open and is going to get absolutely murdered, and I probably lose this game, which is what makes this a skew list. There are some lists that just counter it, right? And there are other lists that, get countered by it so heavily. It's incredibly polarizing.
Yeah, it is. The cool thing to say is there is hope for this list when playing against it in the base game, because you probably are playing with quite a few units down, but you know that anytime you give a little love tap to a Dark Elf, it's going to go to its knees and die, really. However, this has still got... How many activations is this one? Is this a 10? This is a 10 count, 10, right? Yeah. This one's a 10 count. So Dark Elf Raider players who are keen to do this, you do still have virtue of the fact that if you say it's this versus 7 activations, on the next go your opponent activates 1, wipes out 1 unit of Court Henchman, you activate the other one and wipe out 1 more unit, so your opponent's now down to, maybe in the not the best situation, maybe they're now down to 3 activations. Those have to be 3 activations played damn near perfectly for the rest of the game, because you've got ablative activations. These naked heroes really come into their own at that point. So if your opponent has ways of split firing, that could be very, very good for them. If not, the game can lock up quite quickly. This is one of the skewiest skew lists I think we have. Yeah,
if you watch our archetypes and playstyles video, I said in it that aggressive lists, when I'm playing against other aggressive lists, the more aggressive the list will win. Right, it's the most aggressive version of the list, right? So this moves 20 inches and then deploys something that can shoot 18 inches with 24 AP3 shots. That's pretty damn aggressive, right? However, if you have like an aircraft thing that can move more than 20 inches and can drop more than that on top of your opponents, then you can win against this because you just have the better, more aggressive list. I think in progressive, it's this is an overpowered list in progressive. I think in base game it sits in the kind of, it's very powerful, but it's definitely skew. So it's not just like going to destroy every list. Like sometimes you're gonna put your guys down and be like, fuck, I really hope my opponent misplays. Because I hope I hope they go like, oh, haha, I got your crow swarms turn 1, and you can go like, fucking thank God. You know, you hope they don't really look at your list and see the 2 500-point units and the 200-point jet bikes, right? Like you just, you hope for that stuff, because some lists will just destroy this. But yes, very, very potent, very, very oppressive to sometimes play against, especially like I said, especially in progressive, right? Like this is the kind of list that, for me, proves why progressive shouldn't really be played competitively, because I think it's too easy to break with hyper aggression. A couple of changes to it would make it fine, but yeah. This is
which we can talk about. This is your favorite skew list. Yes, this is probably my favorite skew list at the moment as well. Because it is so strong, it's so hilarious to see in action. And what it starts to do is piece together a puzzle in the meta of what can you bring that fights this, that fights a horde, that fights elites. Like this does win most matchups. It would struggle against horde in base game. There's one weakness to it. So how do you start to now develop lists that can handle all of these things? That's a fun puzzle in my mind as to how to play OPR. Also, it can be quite nihilistic and you go, nothing can do it and give up. But, be positive, people. Be optimists. The glass is half full, usually. And it's quite fun to have that puzzle going. This list does toe the line between fun to think about and then also gloom and doom, as I mentioned. So it is interesting. But well, hey, there's a patch coming. We'll see how long it lasts. I think this one will probably scrape it by.
Yeah, I think in 3.6 this will be gone. But I think at least for the rest of 3.5 this will stick around. It's very, very niche. But yeah, I think this is also one of those, because it's so glass cannony, it really makes your opponent hate harassing. Right?
Yeah.
Like it really makes harassing feel like the world's strongest rule, because you just like get slightly out of range of everything, right?
Which we hated in beta when this came out, right?
Harassing, this is because this is a range unit making use of harassing, right? Hit and run's really good at range, right? Like the Bloodhounds, harassing is really good when you get a wipeout and you can move 6 inches. But most of the time, that's not happening, right? Like if you're killing chaff units, but harassing is just really good because court henchmen are 12 inches, right? So your opponent is constantly seeing it move the units just out of range of your charge. Right? Like every time they're like, oh, and I'll be able to, and I move 3 inches after that. So yeah, it's very frustrating to play against. I still think harassing is not really great for melee. It's kind of like one of those rules that's like, it's really, really good if it works, and it's basically useless if it doesn't.
Yeah. Interesting list though. But for now, we'll round that out there. We've discussed 5 very skewy lists. What's your favourite skewy list to bring? We haven't talked about some quite bait things like Titan Lords. They are a skew list. Ratmen Clans, very skewy horde list. Oops All Walker, Alien Hives, things like that. Of course, they are skew lists too. There are quite a few out there that are hilarious and fun to play, and also quite dominating. Talk to us about what you like. We love it when people come to us with their comments about their thoughts on what we've done. Like we've got a lot of talk generated over the tier lists in recent weeks, so please don't be afraid to join us down in the comments and in our Discord.
Yeah, and last thing about skew lists as well, I kind of mentioned it during the Night Brothers section, but you very rarely want to collect a skew list, right? Because most people, you'll play them once and people will be like, I don't want to play against that ever again, right? So they're not very good to actually own skew lists, right? They're good for like one-off things. Yeah. So what I would encourage you to do when it comes, if you want to go and try out a skew list, pick something you've already got the models for and proxy it, or see if you've got like a subset of models that you could use for a list like this. Bring it to like a single event or, a day of games with your mates or whatever. Play it once, laugh and joke about how silly it was and how much you got destroyed in this matchup and how much you destroyed that matchup, and revel in the fact that your games take 25 minutes, and then probably put it to bed.
Really, let's shout that message louder, right? Which is these lists can be very unfun to play against, and
some people really enjoy the challenge, right? Some people really
Some people do.
Some people go like, oh, brilliant. Like, yeah, bring that skew list. I think I've got something that counters it, right? And you play that game with them. Other people are literally like, I just don't want to play against you ever again. You're a mean and nasty man, and I'm sick and tired of flamethrowers. And that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Play your opponent. Don't play the game is a really important message to have, because these will make people think that the game can be unfun. Yeah. And read the room a little bit if you're planning on playing these more than once. Bring the meme, but remember that, you know, really the best fun that you can have is making sure you have a good time with your opponent and want to play again afterwards. I think that's really one of the most important messages we can say about skew lists. But for more messages like that, come and talk to us. For now, I'm Dave. He's Harvey. This is Don't Think, Just Charge. And it was really lovely seeing you. Thank you.